So one of the most important things in my boat that I use 12 months of the year, almost every day I go fishing, is some type of weight. You know, when it comes to drop shot and Texas rig, Carolina rigging, you gotta have some weight. So I kind of wanted to run through like my tungsten weight box. What do I carry? You know, when you, I switched from lead to pretty much all tungsten, you know, a few years ago, because tungsten just has a lot of benefits. And I kind of feel like I bought a bunch of weights, sizes and stuff that I never really used. And I've kind of got my box limited now to what I think are the most necessary, essential weights. And this is, you know, you may not need all these, but this is for all around the country. I want to talk about what weights I use, you know, different places, and why I carry all this in my box and what it's made for. So number one that I have in my weight box is weight pegs. These are Ark weight pegs. So these are designed to peg your Texas rigs. They're bobber stops, this little rubber thing that you put on your line to peg your Texas rig weights for flipping, pitching, you know, skipping docks, whatever. So I carry some weight pegs, and I carry a bunch of O-rings that I don't use a bunch. But I carry O-rings that I don't use a ton, but I use them occasionally for a wacky worm. If I'm trying to conserve worms, not try to use so many fluke sticks, then I put an O-ring on just to save a few worms and not tear up so many. I always carry some tiny blades that I like to put in the back of, you know, minnows or worms occasionally. I keep a few tiny blades in there for that situation, and then my swivels, you know, just your general size. I just carry like number 7 swivels. But then when it comes to the weights, so bullet weights are what I carry primarily. But when it comes to sizes of bullet weights, you know, tungsten weights or bullet weights are tiny, but I don't carry all size weights because I don't see the necessity of it. I kind of keep it pretty simple. I carry one batch of small 1/16, and 1/16 ounce weights I carry just mostly for when I'm throwing, you know, a swim bait or sometimes even a horny toad or something like that in vegetation. Just keeps it down in the water a little bit better. I don't take this rig a ton with these as far as like, you know, actually fishing a worm, but the little bitty weights are great to put in front of a swim bait or a moving bait just to get it a little better in the water or in vegetation. But what I like to do is I don't carry every size. These are all Ark tungstens, and I carry 1/16, and then I skip all the way to 1/4, then 3/8, and then half, 3/4, ounce and a quarter, and work it up to 2 ounce that I very hardly ever use, but for punching in Florida. So basically I skip every other size weight because I usually don't feel like the difference in a 1/16 of an ounce, you know, amongst all that, like the difference between a 3/16 and a quarter is very insignificant. So I don't carry very many of those middle-sized weights to keep everything simple. And you'll hear a lot of things from different people, but when it comes to tungsten bullet weights, you know, tungsten's a really hard material. It's really abrasive on your line if it's not made right or inserted. So what I prefer to do is I don't care what type of weight it is. Tungsten scares me on my line. When I'm using fluorocarbon or braid, tungsten's hard. It's not lead. It's not good for your line. So I always use inserted weights. My theory is, you know, if there was some type of issue, a sharp piece somewhere inside that weight, if you use insert free, the paint on it, on a painted weight. Ark tungsten is not painted, so you don't have to worry about that. But I prefer the insert because it nullifies any of that. You don't have to worry about it on your line with the insert because it's an insert. It's plastic, it's softer, you know, material on your line, and it can't fray it. But with that being said, I've got a few in here I was trying to look for that this insert, the nature insert, if you go fishing one day and catch, you know, 50 flipping a Texas rig, you need to throw that weight away. Because the inserts, they get mushed out. You'll see them after a full day of fishing. Your line will kind of squash them different directions. And eventually it's plastic. Eventually you cut that enough times with your line, eventually it's gonna break. So I keep an eye on my inserts. And when I see one that's looking kind of worn out, I either keep it for a practice weight where I'm not gonna be setting the hook or shaking fish off, or I just get rid of that weight. So when it comes to weights, I prefer insert, but with that being said, there's a little maintenance. You gotta keep an eye on the inserted weights. And I just carried the flipping style tungsten majority for the weights that's available, just the round, more style weights. So the other thing I carry is I carry 3 sizes in tungsten nail weights. You know, I've really started like to throw a Nico rig for, you know, live scope, seeing fish on rock. It's a great bait out deep, or you're catching spotted bass. Nico's a really awesome bait, really, year round. And I've got Ark Makes these tungsten nail weights. They're super sharp. They stay in the bait, really easy to put in the bait, and they stay in the bait really well versus some others, and they're smaller. And I carry 3 sizes in those. The smallest being 1/64th and the heaviest being 1/16th. So I basically just pick 3 sizes, the smallest of that, and then pick the middle range between the two, and then the 1/16th as the heaviest. So really limited to 3 weights. But the other style weight that I carry that I don't like to use, but sometimes you got to, is a Carolina rig weight. So these Carolina rig weights Ark Makes are cylinder weights. They got the weight printed on them, but they're cylinder style weights, so they come through rock and stuff really, really well. They don't get hung much. And I like them better than the bullet weights just because they come through like rock, abrasive things better. And they're made for a Carolina rig. I carry 3 sizes. I carry, in these, I don't very often throw a light Carolina rig. So I carry a 1/2, a 3/4, and a 1 ounce. 3 sizes in those, and keep it pretty simple. And that's just for Carolina rigging, which don't love to do, but sometimes you have to. And then the last style of weight that I carry in my box this is where I feel like to simplify it a little bit, I've still got a few drop shot style weights left over, but as of this past year, I switched, and for all my drop shot techniques, I went to the free rig weights. Ark makes these free rig weights, and they're essentially a teardrop drop shot weight, or it's like a combination cylinder / teardrop, and they have a tie. So I like the tie a lot better with drop shot weight, because especially with spotted bass or smallmouth, they kind of act crazy, especially the smallmouth. And any drop shot weight with the little clip thing on top, you're gonna lose a lot of weights. They're gonna throw them off, they're gonna sink, and you're gonna be switching weights. So I've got to where I like to tie my weight on, because then I don't have to worry about it. So by switching to the free rig, I can tie them on, and then if I ever do want to throw a free rig, which is something I don't do a ton, but I've been playing with a little bit, it's also a free rig weight. So it's kind of double purpose, limit your box down a little bit. Still got some drop shot weights left in here that I'm trying to get rid of, but the free rig's really good for that. And when it comes to weight in that, I carry from this is something that you wouldn't need everywhere. If I was for the Southeast around here where I drop shot, I would probably carry 1/8, 1/4, and 3/8. That would be the size I carry. But I carry all the way from 1/8 to 1 ounce, because a lot of times in 6-foot waves up north, kind of need a heavy weight. But in the South, you know, 1/8 for little finesse fishing, maybe casting a drop shot, and a 3/8 for fishing really deep for spotted bass and dropping to them is basically the only, 3 sizes I'd carry, and put 1/4 in the middle, just to have a mid-range. But that is how I kind of simplify my weight box. It's got everything I need for all around the country, and that's basically all the weights that I carry for the whole year.